Of every 100 resumes submitted online to a corporate job posting in the United States last year, somewhere between 70 and 90 never reached human eyes. Not skimmed, not glanced at, discarded by software before a single person in the building knew you applied. You were told the system was meritocratic, that qualifications travel upward, that talent finds its way to the table if you keep applying. The truth is colder. The application portal is not a doorway. It is a moat. And the people on the other side, the ones changing companies every 20 months for 30% raises, are not crossing the moat at all. They're walking around it. There's a loophole, a specific set of moves human resources departments would prefer you didn't know about. Career coaches charging 4-figure packages don't mention it in the free webinar. The people who quietly use it have no incentive to share. Tonight, you learn what they know. Before walking through the loopholes themselves, you have to understand one thing about the people gatekeeping your career. Their job is not to find you. Read that again, slowly. The corporate human resources function, at almost every company over 500 employees, is not designed to identify the best candidate. It's designed to reduce risk, to minimize the chance of a bad hire being traced back to a recruiter, to process volume efficiently, to document a paper trail, to defend against discrimination lawsuits. That is a different job than finding you. The tools they use reflect it. The applicant tracking system, the ATS, is the gatekeeper. Greenhouse, Workday, Lever, Taleo, iSIMS. According to 2024 data compiled by JobScan, more than 98% of Fortune 500 companies use one. The 2021 joint Harvard Business School and Accenture report titled Hidden Workers, Untapped Talent estimated that more than 27 million American workers were filtered out of the hiring process by these systems, despite being qualified for the roles they applied to. 27 million ghosts. The report's authors interviewed dozens of senior executives at Fortune 500 companies. The finding that lingers, the one HR consultants don't put in their LinkedIn posts, is that most of these executives knew the systems they had purchased were screening out people they would have hired. They knew, and they kept the systems anyway, because the systems do something more important to the company than finding good hires. They reduce the cost per applicant processed. This is the system you've been throwing your resume into. Now, let me show you how to walk around it. Loophole 1. The mirror. The first loophole sounds technical. It's the foundation everything else rests on. The ATS doesn't read your resume the way a person does. It scans for keyword matches against the job description. Specifically, it scores you on what's called keyword density and exact phrase match. If the posting says cross-functional stakeholder management and your resume says worked with multiple teams, the system reads zero match, even if you've done the same work for 10 years. The loophole, and most career coaches won't tell you this because it sounds beneath them, is to copy the exact language of the job description into your resume. Verb for verb, phrase for phrase. The skills section especially should look like a mirror of the posting. Priya, a 31-year-old marketing coordinator from Austin, applied to 47 roles over 4 months in 2023 with a resume she thought was strong. She got 2 callbacks. After learning this technique, she rewrote her resume to mirror the language of each specific posting. Same nouns, same action verbs, same software names spelled exactly the same way. She applied to 14 roles in the next 6 weeks. She got 9 callbacks and 3 offers. Same person, same experience, different keywords. Here's the part the career advice industry skips. The mirroring isn't only about getting through the ATS. It's about something older. The medieval guild apprentice, before being admitted to the journeyman class, had to produce what was called a masterpiece. A literal piece of work that proved he could replicate the master's specifications exactly. Not improve on them, not innovate, replicate. The point of the exercise was to demonstrate he could speak the master's language before he was allowed to speak his own. Your resume is the masterpiece. The job description is the specification. You don't get to be original until after you've been let in. Why doesn't HR want you to know this? If every applicant did it, the ATS would lose its filtering power. The system depends on most candidates being too proud, too lazy, or too unaware to mirror. Your originality is what disqualifies you. Their algorithm rewards conformity. Then once you're inside, they punish you for it. That's loophole 1. Loophole 2, the side door. The second loophole is where the math gets uncomfortable. According to LinkedIn's 2023 hiring trends data, a corporate role in the U.S. receives somewhere between 200 and 300 applications on average. Of those, the average recruiter spends, based on a study originally published by the Ladders that's been replicated multiple times since, between 6 and 7 seconds reviewing each resume that survives the ATS. 6 seconds. You spent your weekend tailoring a document that will be evaluated by a stranger in less time than it takes to tie a shoelace. The loophole is, don't apply only through the portal. Apply, but also do something else. While your resume is being processed by the ATS, find the hiring manager directly, not the recruiter, not the HR business partner, the actual person, the manager whose team you would join. You find them on LinkedIn using the company name and the function. You send a single specific message that does 3 things. Acknowledges you've applied through the proper channel, tells them in 2 sentences why you'd be valuable to them specifically, and asks if they'd be open to a 15-minute conversation. Most won't respond. That's fine. Roughly 1 in 7 will, based on outreach data published across multiple recruiting platforms in recent years. Verify response rate range. Dale is 44, a supply chain analyst from Cincinnati. He'd been laid off from a regional manufacturer in early 2024 and applied to 92 jobs over 5 months. He got 3 first-round interviews. Then, a former colleague mentioned this approach. Dale started sending direct LinkedIn messages to the operations directors of every company he applied to. Of the next 31 applications, 28 got responses from hiring managers. 12 led to interviews. 2 led to offers within 7 weeks. He took the better one, a 16% salary jump from his previous role. Why does this work? The hiring manager has different incentives than HR. The manager has an empty seat on her team. Every week that seat stays empty, her workload grows. She is not insulated from the consequences of an unfilled position. She benefits from a competent person showing up directly and saying, "I think I can solve your problem." There's a phrase from the world of intelligence work that captures it. Cutouts. A cutout is an intermediary used to pass information without direct contact. HR is the cutout. They exist to manage the flow, not to make the decision. The decision maker is 1 tier sideways. Studio 54 in 1977, the legendary nightclub on West 54th Street in Manhattan, was famous for one thing besides its music, the velvet rope. Co-owner Steve Rubel stood at the entrance and selected who came in. Reporters at the time called him capricious, theatrical, unfair. But Rubel understood something about exclusivity that translates directly to your career. The line at the front door was not the way in. The way in was knowing someone who knew Steve. The line existed to make the inside feel scarce. Most of the people in the line were never going to enter. They were the scenery. The application portal is the line. The hiring manager is the side door. That's loophole 2. Loophole 3. The phantom posting. The third loophole forces a confrontation with something that will make you angry. A significant percentage of the jobs you've been applying to do not actually exist. Not in the literal sense. The postings are real. The company logo is real. The application process is real. But there is no role being filled, no interview being scheduled, no human reviewing what comes in. They're called ghost jobs. According to a 2022 report from Clarify Capital that surveyed hundreds of hiring managers, roughly 43% of companies admitted to keeping job postings live for positions they had no current intention to fill. A 2024 survey from My Perfect Resume found that more than 60% of recruiters said their company posts ghost jobs as a regular practice. You have spent hours of your life applying to advertisements for nothing. Why do they do it? To build a passive talent pipeline for hypothetical future hiring, to make the company appear to be growing during fundraising or earnings cycles, to gauge market salary expectations without committing to a hire, to collect resumes for headcount data, and, most quietly, to keep current employees insecure, knowing there's a posted job that could replace them. In 1787, Field Marshal Grigory Potemkin reportedly had fake village facades erected along the Dnieper River, painted wooden fronts assembled in advance of Catherine the Great's tour of the recently annexed Crimea. The point was to make a region that was actually impoverished and underdeveloped appear thriving. Whether the story is literal or embellished, the term Potemkin Village entered the language to describe an elaborate facade designed to impress an audience that won't look behind it. Most online job postings are Potemkin villages. The audience is the market, investors, employees, journalists. The facade is the appearance of growth and demand. You are the audience that wasn't supposed to look behind the wall, but that's exactly what the loophole is. 3 signals? Not foolproof, but combined, they're highly predictive. Signal 1, the posting has been live for more than 30 days with no edits. Real openings move. They get tweaked, reposted, modified. A static posting that hasn't been touched in 6 weeks is almost always dead. Signal 2, the job description reads like a wish list assembled from 4 different real roles. 8 years of experience for a mid-level title. Mastery of 9 separate software platforms. The phrase used inside HR for this is purple squirrel, a candidate so rare they don't exist. Purple squirrel postings are sometimes real, but more often they're decoys for visa-related compliance or to justify external hires that have already been made internally. Signal 3, the company has been laying off people in the same function within the last 6 months. Cross-reference on layoff tracking sites. If a company laid off 35 engineers in October and has 14 engineering roles posted in November, those postings are at best aspirational and at worst theatrical. Elena is 28, a graphic designer from Phoenix. She applied to 115 roles in 2023 and got 8 callbacks. After learning the ghost job filter, she cut her application volume by 60% and only targeted postings less than 14 days old at companies with verified active hiring. Her callback rate jumped from 7% to 31%. She wasn't a worse candidate before, she was just exhausted, applying to ghosts. Underneath the 3 loopholes you've heard so far, the mirror, the side door, the ghost detector, there's a deeper system at work, a system the previous tactics interact with but don't fully expose. To see it clearly, you have to ask a question almost no one asks. Why does the job posting even exist? Most people assume the answer is obvious. A company has an opening. They post it. Candidates apply. The best one gets hired. Sequential, logical, honest. That assumption is wrong. The truth of how corporate hiring actually works is the 4th loophole. And once you see it, it changes how you approach every application for the rest of your career. Loophole 4, the hidden threshold. Most corporate jobs are filled before they are publicly posted. This sounds like an exaggeration. It is not. According to multiple datasets aggregated by LinkedIn over the last several years, somewhere between 70 and 85% of professional positions are filled through internal referrals, internal candidates, or networking-driven introductions. Verify exact range. Figures vary by source and seniority. The exact number depends on industry, but the floor is high. The public posting often exists not to attract candidates, but to satisfy a regulatory or internal policy requirement that the job be advertised, even though a specific person has already been identified for it. This is sometimes called the hidden job market. The phrase is too soft. It's not hidden. It's the actual job market. The visible job market is the public-facing performance. The thing you've been treating as the main event is the sideshow. The thing you didn't know existed is the main event. How do you cross the threshold into the actual market? You stop trying to be a candidate and start trying to be a name that comes up in a conversation. When a hiring manager realizes she needs a hire, the first thing she does is not write a job description. The first thing she does is ask 3 or 4 people whose judgment she trusts. Do you know anyone good? If your name comes up in those conversations, you have an offer in 3 weeks. If your name doesn't, you're back at the velvet rope. Becoming a name that comes up requires a behavior most job seekers find deeply uncomfortable. Maintain low-grade contact with people in your industry. Not when you need a job, but when you don't. A short message every 2 months. A genuine comment on someone's post. A 15-minute call to congratulate someone on a promotion. This is not networking in the gross, transactional sense the word implies. It's something quieter. It's making sure you exist in the working memory of 40 or 50 people who matter to your career. Alex is 39, a project manager who lives in Denver. Between 2017 and 2022, he stayed at the same company, kept his head down, and assumed his work would speak for itself. When his department was restructured and he was laid off, he sent 290 applications over 6 months and got 11 interviews. He took a role 22% below his previous salary because his runway was running out. In 2023, he committed to a different practice. Every Friday morning, for 1 hour, he sent 5 short messages to former colleagues, clients, or industry contacts. Not asking for anything, just contact. By April 2024, when his next company announced a restructuring, he didn't apply to anything. 3 of his contacts had already heard he might be available. He had 2 informal conversations the following week and an offer 11 days later, a 38% jump from his prior compensation. What changed was not his work. What changed was his presence in the only market that actually matters. There's a story from antiquity that fits here. In Athens during the 5th century BC, the practice of ostracism, banishing a citizen for 10 years by popular vote, required only that enough fellow citizens write your name on a shard of pottery. The selection was not based on your crimes, your conduct, or your contribution. It was based on whether your name was top of mind. Themistocles, who saved Greece at the Battle of Salamis, was ostracized in 471 BC. Aristides the Just, a man so fair that legend says even his enemies trusted him, was ostracized in 482 BC. Their names came up. That was enough. The principle inverted is the principle of hiring. Names that come up get the seat. Names that don't are the line at Studio 54. Loophole 5. The inversion. The 5th loophole is the one HR cannot stop you from using because it doesn't involve them at all. Stop applying for jobs. Start positioning for offers. This sounds like marketing speak. It is not. It is a structural shift in how you exist in the labor market. When you apply for a job, you are one of 200 candidates being filtered. Your value is set by comparison to a pool. Your salary will be benchmarked to a band. Your power in negotiation is roughly 0. They have 200 backups. When you are positioned for offers, your value is set by scarcity. The hiring manager is comparing you to her ability to find someone like you, which is far harder than comparing you to a pool of applicants she has already collected. Position means a public body of work in your function, however small. A point of view expressed somewhere. A blog, a LinkedIn newsletter, a conference talk, a niche community where you're known. Specific results attached to your name. A professional reputation that exists in writing. Accessible by Google search before anyone Googles you. Most career advice tells you to optimize the resume. The resume is the artifact you produce after position fails. The position is the actual job market. Ngozi is 35, a data analyst from Atlanta. For years, she was a strong individual contributor at a regional bank with a salary in the mid-80,000s. In 2022, she started writing one short LinkedIn post per week, 3 or 4 paragraphs, about a real problem she'd solved at work that week, with the company name redacted. By the end of 2023, she had 9,000 followers, mostly other analysts and hiring managers in financial services. In early 2024, a director at a fintech firm in Charlotte messaged her directly. There was no application, there was no portal, there was no ATS. There was an offer letter for $146,000 within 3 weeks. She didn't get a better job. She made it impossible for a better job to ignore her. This is the loophole HR cannot patch. They cannot filter you out of a process you never entered. They cannot reject a resume that wasn't submitted. The ATS has no field for has been thinking publicly about supply chain risk for 3 years and is followed by every operations director at 5 Fortune 500 retailers. The keyword scanner does not recognize reputation. The 6-second resume scan cannot weigh authority. You become unfilterable not by gaming the filter, but by making the filter irrelevant. The people changing jobs every 20 months at 30% raises understand this implicitly. The application is for everyone else. 5 loopholes, 1 pattern. The pattern is that the public hiring process, the application portal, the ATS, the polite confirmation email, the "we received your application" auto response was never built for you. It was built around you to filter you, manage you, slow you, and protect the company from the legal and operational risks that come with hiring decisions. The fact that you might find a job through it is incidental. You've been knocking on the front door of a building with 5 entrances. Tonight, you learned the building is real, the doors are real, and the people inside are real, and not one of them is sitting by the front door waiting to let you in. Now that you know, the harder problem begins. Knowing is the easy part. Acting consistently, sending the messages, mirroring the language, ignoring the ghost postings, building the position, that's the part that takes a year. Most people will hear this, nod, and go right back to refreshing the same job board they were refreshing last week. The friction is internal. The system counts on it. When you click this video, you were probably hoping for a tip, a trick, something to add to the resume. What you got was the more uncomfortable truth that the resume is the wrong layer of the problem, and the people pretending to evaluate it on merit are running a ritual, not a search. Carry one thought with you tonight. The job market you've been losing in is not the job market that matters. If something just clicked for you, if you can feel the angle of your career rotating 2 degrees, subscribe. Every script here pulls back another curtain on the systems that profit from your confusion. Stay close. The information your industry doesn't want you organized enough to know is the information shared here, quietly, every week.